Hello, my name is Lidia Kostareva. I am a PhD student of the Institute of Language, Literature and History of the Komi Science Center of the Russian Academy of Sciences. I am going to present a report under the headline Recovery of Local Traditional Dyeing Recipes According to Ethnographic Data, Process, Theoretical and Practical Significance. My scientific research is devoted to the history of the development of dyeing craft in the Komi region in the 19th and the early 20th centuries. Today I will talk about the process of recovery of traditional dyeing recipes and about the importance of these data for specialists in the field of ethnography, history and folk crafts. To start with, I will explain briefly what dyeing craft is and what place it occupied in the traditional culture of Komi-Syrians. Dyeing craft is textile materials dyeing with natural organic dyes. Natural dyes are extracted from fresh or dried natural raw materials, bark, roots and leaves. It was the only possible way to change the color of textile for a long time before the advent of artificial dyes. Komi-Syrians are known to be famous for their rich tradition of wool pattern knitting. Various colors are needed for the pattern knitting technique to create their ornamentation. Komi-Syrians developed different recipes for natural dyeing of wool yarn. Wool as a fiber of animal origin is dyed easier and intensively than fibers of plant origin, for example linen, cotton, hemp or nettle. The type of fiber determined the dyeing formula and natural dyes used for its dyeing. Therefore, the largest number of described recipes is associated with dyeing of wool. At the beginning of the 19th century, the search for new dyes became necessary for the development of textile industry to dye various materials. Active experiments began on the creation of artificial analogues of natural dyes. The experiments were successful. In the second half of 19th century, artificial dyes began to be actively used. Their bright colors and simple method of application forced out natural dyes not only from industrial but also from handcrafted dyeing of fabrics and yarn. Craftsmen began using artificial dyes, and many local dyeing recipes could not reach our time. When I turned to the study of Komi-Syrians dyeing recipes, I found that few historical and ethnographic works were devoted to this topic. These include the works of researchers of the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Nikolai Golitsyn, Georgy Startsev, and the works of ethnographic scientists of the second half of the 20th century, Lyubov Gribova, Galina Romanova and Glafira Shipunova. Based on studies, I used two methods for recovery of traditional dyeing recipes. The method of analysis and generalization of historical and ethnographic sources, and experimental method to verify dyeing recipes. Using these methods, I developed a process plan of recovery of local traditional dyeing recipes. The plan consists of a number of steps. The first step is data collection. Recipes found in the sources were analyzed for the presence or absence of the following information. 1. Dye raw material preparation. Dye raw materials were mainly used in the fresh form, with some part of it being dried for dyeing in winter. Some recipes contained information about collection time and description of the dyeing plant. 2. Preparation of fabric for dyeing. I searched the sources for information about the type of material and methods of washing or bleaching. 3. Equipment and accommodation. Data on the place where the dyeing was carried out and on the tools that were used in the process. 4. Dyeing method. The dyeing method using excipient is known to be mordant. Mordants are found to affect color stability and saturation. 3 types of mordant dyeing can be applied: with a preliminary mordant, simultaneously with a mordant, and with a subsequent mordant. Dyeing method without the use of excipients is known to be non-mordant. 5. Preparation of a dye decoction. In this section, I collected information about the raw material boiling time and the ratio of ingredients. 6. Preparation of the mordant solution, type of mordant, source of mordant. 7. Dyeing time. Duration of dyeing affects not only the color but also the fiber structure. 8. Fixing and color correction. Fixers and compositions that were used to fix or change color. For example, formic acid, salt, brine, lye, alkali. Acids have been considered to brighten the color. Alkalis have been considered to darken the color. 9. Other factors. For example, the use of fermentation processes and pickling. When studying the works of the researcher Georgi Startsev, I happened to come across a very interesting recipe using kerosene. The second step of the recovery process is an experimental recipe test. Checking the recipe, all parameters are observed as much as possible. Most of collected recipes presented good results during the experimental testing. The third step is recipe adjustment. During the experiment, some recipe details were clarified. During the process of recovery of dyeing recipes, according to ethnographic data, a number of problems arise. For example, a problem with dyeing plant definition. The source most often indicates the local name of the plant, sometimes in the local language. Sometimes not a plant is described. According to the description of the dyeing plant location, it is possible to find out that it is a mushroom or lichen. Specialists in the field of botany, ethnobotany, mycology, and lichenology were involved as consultants to solve a similar problem. The results of sources analysis and a number of experiments were summarized in the table. The table provides information on local dyeing plants, lichens and fungi, mordants and fixing agents, type of materials and dyeing methods used by commissarians. In the table you can see name according to the source, supposed official name, the parts used for dyeing, its form, material, wool, linen or hemp, mordant and mordanting method, fixing agent. The last column of the table provides information about the colors that can be obtained using a specific recipe. Recovered dyeing recipes have theoretical and practical applications. The recovery of local traditional dyeing recipes is important for studying the traditional culture of commissarians. It allows restoring all stages of creating textile. Dyeing recipes can tell us a lot about the traditions and life of people of a particular area. The colors which they have received from local plants influenced their clothing, household items, and overall color perception. Recovered recipes today can be used both in the reconstruction of traditional clothing and in the creation of modern clothing, modern textiles, for example, home textiles or clothes. The results of my experiments, recipes for dyeing, and pictures of products are included in the book Forgotten Craft. In conclusion, I would like to note the growing interest in natural dyeing, both in the scientific community and in a society as a whole. Natural dyeing has several advantages, including the availability of dye raw materials, the possibility of home use, hypoallergenicity, biodegradability of waste. In some countries, serious work is already underway to return natural dyes to practical dyeing technology. Natural dyeing is the possibility to dye textile materials without using artificial dyes. Everything needed to create a dye growing under our feet. Thank you for your attention.